Before we begin, if dark crime stories and real investigations fascinate you, hit subscribe, drop a like, and tell me in the comments what you think really happens behind the walls of America's most secure prison. Because tonight's story begins in a place most people will never see. The wind howled across the barren Colorado desert. Cold air swept through miles of dry land, rattling the razor wire that surrounded the most secure prison in the United States. Hidden behind layers of fences, armed guard towers, and reinforced concrete stood a facility feared by criminals and respected by law enforcement around the world. ADX Florence, known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, it was designed for one purpose: to hold the most dangerous inmates in America. Men so violent, so manipulative, and so unpredictable that no other prison could safely contain them. Inside these walls, inmates spent 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. The cells were concrete boxes. Thick steel doors blocked the view of the hallways. Even the windows were designed so prisoners could see nothing but sky and stone. No one talked, no one trusted anyone, and no one escaped. At least, that was the belief. Until the morning everything went wrong. The alarm sounded just before dawn. Correctional officers rushed through the narrow corridors of cell block H, their boots echoing off the concrete walls. A routine head count had revealed something impossible. Cell H17 was empty. Officer Mark Delaney stood frozen outside the steel door, staring through the small viewing window. The bed was neatly made. The sink was dry. The small desk bolted to the floor was untouched. But the inmate who had been locked inside just hours earlier was gone. And the prisoner missing from that cell wasn't just any criminal. It was a man many investigators believed was one of the most dangerous inmates ever sent to ADX Florence. His name was Victor Salazar. Years earlier, Salazar had led an international criminal network that authorities said stretched across multiple countries. His operations involved fraud, organized crime, and a long trail of violence that prosecutors struggled to fully untangle. When he was finally arrested after a multi-year investigation, federal officials made a rare decision. They sent him directly to ADX Florence. No other prison would take the risk. Delaney's voice trembled as he spoke into his radio. "Control. This is H Block. We have a missing inmate." Within seconds, the prison erupted into emergency protocol. Steel doors slammed shut throughout the facility. Sirens echoed through the concrete halls. Guards armed with rifles rushed to their assigned positions. Every corridor was locked down. Inside the command center, Warden Thomas Grayson stared at the surveillance monitors. "Run the cameras," he ordered. Technicians immediately pulled footage from the night before. Hours of recordings flickered across the screens. Guards walking patrol routes. Silent hallways, locked cell doors. Everything looked normal. Then one technician paused the video. "Sir, something's wrong here." The footage showed the corridor outside Salazar's cell at 13A, for 8 seconds. The video froze. Then the recording continued as if nothing had happened. Grayson's jaw tightened. "Replay it." The technician rewound the footage. Again, the hallway appeared normal. Then the screen glitched. 8 seconds of frozen video. And when the camera resumed, the small window of cell H17 showed darkness inside. Salazar was already gone. The room fell silent. ADX Florence was designed with dozens of redundant security systems. Electronic locks, pressure sensors, motion detectors. Even the plumbing pipes were monitored to prevent tampering. An escape from this prison wasn't just unlikely. It was considered impossible. Yet somehow, Victor Salazar had vanished. Federal investigators were called immediately. Within hours, agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation arrived at the prison. Leading the investigation was Special Agent Laura Jennings, a veteran investigator known for working complex organized crime cases. She stepped into Salazar's empty cell, studying every detail. The concrete walls showed no damage. The vent was too small for a person. The door lock was fully intact. Jennings turned slowly toward the steel bed frame. Something scratched into the metal caught her attention. She leaned closer. 3 words had been carved carefully into the surface. "They are ready." Jennings felt a chill run down her spine. "Who is ready?" she asked quietly. No one had an answer. When Jennings asked about Salazar, Tate laughed. "You think he escaped?" Jennings crossed her arms. He's gone from a locked cell. That's exactly what happened. Tate shook his head slowly. You don't understand. Jennings frowned. Then explain it. Tate leaned forward, lowering his voice. Salazar didn't escape. Jennings' eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Tate's answer was calm, almost amused. He was taken. The words hung in the air. Jennings stared at him. Taken by who? Tate shrugged. The same people he's been talking to for months. Jennings' pulse quickened. Talking to who? Tate glanced toward the hallway. Then he whispered something that made every investigator in the room freeze. He said there were others inside this prison, waiting. Jennings' mind raced. ADX Florence housed some of the most dangerous criminals in the world. Men capable of planning violence even from solitary confinement. But the idea that multiple inmates might be secretly coordinating something inside the most secure prison in America was almost impossible to believe. Almost. Later that evening, technicians continued analyzing Salazar's cell. One of them called Jennings over urgently. Agent, you need to see this. They had removed a loose metal plate beneath the sink. Hidden behind it was a small folded piece of paper. Jennings carefully unfolded it. Inside was a crude map of the prison. Certain cell numbers had been circled in red. But what terrified her most was the message written across the top. Phase 1 complete. And as Jennings stared at the map, she realized something horrifying. Every circled cell belonged to one of the most dangerous inmates ever housed inside ADX Florence. And if the message was true, Victor Salazar wasn't the only one planning to disappear. The network inside the walls map lay flat on the steel table inside the prison's command center. Special Agent Laura Jennings stared at the circled cell numbers again and again, hoping she had misread something. But the pattern was clear. 6 cells had been marked, 6 inmates. Every one of them housed in separate wings of the prison, every one of them classified as extremely dangerous. And every one of them had arrived at ADX Florence for the same reason. Their crimes weren't just violent. They were strategic, calculated, the kind of criminals who could manipulate people from thousands of miles away. The kind who didn't need weapons to cause chaos. Warden Thomas Grayson rubbed his forehead in frustration. This prison was designed to prevent communication, he said. The inmates here don't talk to each other. They don't see each other. They barely even hear each other. Jennings nodded slowly. Then someone found a way. Investigators began reviewing every piece of information connected to the circled inmates.